the book's title is A Leader's Destiny: Why Psychology, Personality, and Character Make All the Difference. And there's a big question what the author asks: are the leaders born or built? I definitely, I think so. We all from the summary could see what he has big resentment against a lot of leadership, and especially leadership industry and coaches, especially executive coaches. And to be honest, I could see his point quite clearly what I encountered in my career too, from meeting leaders who exhibit a lot of narcissism and psychopathy, and they're proud of themselves, of driving through results through fear, and how the coaching and me as a place as a coach interacting with them, how in one way you understand what it's not going to be a successful coaching experience for either of us, but at the same time, as he mentions in the book too, there is this wish, like maybe I can inspire something, maybe I can tame this mindset or expand or shift. And then you invest so much time and effort and patience in that relationship, but the results are so small, and go along with them by praising them, and then how that affects whole leadership. It's a really slippery slope. So I really loved how this book also inspires boundaries to understand what's possible in leadership, and how also go into understanding leadership through the perspective of character, and what is that leadership is driven by. And anything what is also healthy in psychology, it is optimal. It's never this or either, it's in the middle. So even with the passions what we have, I really love research and examples when it's harmonious passion or obsessive passion. Like if leader or whoever is obsessed with the results or serving him as a team, and then cannot let it go of the position or cannot let go of the situations or topics or results, that shows this unhealthy relationship to that subject, to the point. So we can start seeing if it is possible to shift, and how deep that relationship and ties lay in that position, and also knowing what is possible to do in those aspects for ourselves, what is our role in that relationship. So he explores quite a bit about knowing how to be a team player, how to be led, how to submit, which is also really interesting topic to measure in ourselves. How much in us is leadership, and how much in us is a team player, and then how they show up in different situations, and which one is needed. Also, we talked a little bit, and Mantas in our private meetings mentioned about leadership positions where is no leader. So I really loved what the author brought it up also, what in general in the society we need leaders. We need to have the anchor. We need to have that's driving force. However, leaderless situations and how they look like, I didn't see it yet examples, even though I heard wishes to organize really flat leadership models, but I never seen it working in the nature or anywhere else yet. So I'm looking forward to see if somebody has experience of that kind of setting where is no clear leader in the situation. So interesting idea also was about anonymity and privacy and this mystery, how in this day with social media and actually self-branding, what is quite needed in this day and age to be known, but it could serve us also quite damaging, where we're too exposed. So to find the balance in that, but I feel like he also looked and found the examples what served his story, which missed also different aspects of uh, different sides to support his counter argument, because psychology and long-term development, I truly believe, and now I will give a floor to all of you. I've seen examples where you don't need to be on the couch with the psychology approach for many, many years to do the progress. Yes, there are characteristics where we test out in coaching, in executive coaching, in the first meeting to see what's possible in a relationship. And if you can see what it is, healthy person has a good skill set, but they're missing certain skill sets or perspectives what are in the way of progressing, then coaching is absolutely perfect for behavior change in expanding those shifts. And I also say in the first session, if we see use many different techniques and we see the person still stuck in that position, psychology is absolutely perfect place to go deeper and untangle those ties, or redefine those situations where maybe coming from childhood. So really knowing what kind of toolkits and tools are needed in different situations, I feel like this is reinforced, at least for me, the message of focus and limits. What idea, and of course in the end I really loved his exploration about disruption versus change. So how in many companies I seen big companies, new CEO invited, and to kind of show the effect of their presence, they come in with this tsunami of disrupt everything, new approaches to everything, and it causes and creates a lot of chaos. And even in the situations what showed a lot of good performance, they still want to redefine it. So really understanding how disrupting works effectively in certain situations, but when it is damaging in also many presents. So I really, really, from this book, the most I loved at this point to be aware of. And of course, for women's statistics to be in leadership, usually they're set up to fail when they get high-end positions. I heard that statistic already quite a bit, and the scene from my coaching experience when I needed to support women leaders, how really complicated situations were for them to step in, and there's no support at all for them to move forward. So also being aware of the environments and what kind of environments we can create to thrive, not only also to see our passions, us wanting to fix the situation, really focusing on our dreams and visions, what could be possible, but not considering the environment, what's possible in this environment, what support we have, and really knowing those, and again reinforcing those limits. Maybe we will start with mantas, and then I cannot wait to hear also from Aista and Megan what maybe what ideas you got when you start discovering a little bit about this book, and then what maybe one idea what you would like to explore from it.
Mm, Sure. So I think in any case, sort of, feel free, guys, to step into the conversation. If this triggers an unstoppable need to speak. I think from this, I remember actually when I was looking up the book for the book club, I checked out some of the reviews, and I liked one which basically said that the author does not seem to be seeing a difference between the leadership with the capital L, the one that comes with the CEO title, and leadership with the lowercase, which is essentially sort of your everyday variety, that you exhibit sort of on a daily basis, irrelevantly of your role. So I think that distinction got lost totally for me in the book, which is, I guess, a pity in a sense. Generally, sort of, personally, I mean, I agree with many things that are stated if you take them in isolation, because from my experience, the leadership industry, I mean, the term he coined, the industrial complex of executive education, or whatever was the exact title he used. I mean, that's definitely a phenomenon, and I think a lot of people are being sort of I don't know if you can say misled, but definitely sort of there is quite a bit of over promising and under delivery. That being said, I also feel that when I take the book in its entirety, and I have to admit, I think I'm also something around halfway into it right now still. uh, so when I take at least that part that I have went through in its entirety, it seems that the guy has a position, and he's just trying to find arguments to sort of defend it. That's my impression, really. And why I'm saying this, I think this comparison of the entire discipline of leadership development, whatever you want to sort of specifically call that. Certainly, there are bad actors in it, but I mean, to me, this sort of seems. I think those who have at least some experience in this field probably know this, through their sort of through the skin in the game. That leadership is. I mean, I actually like to compare, all of these programs a little bit to learning to play an instrument. So you might go to, to music school. You might graduate, with trumpet or whatever. You will get the skills, sorry, you will get the techniques taught to you. Whether you will be a skillful player, that's another thing entirely. And whether you will be a successful as a performer, and that's also sort of a. So I think to me the sort of. I mean, I like the provocativeness of the book, sort of that it challenges, and I think it sort of hits a lot of the right notes in terms of figuring out the weak spots. That being said, what I miss from the book, to be honest, myself, I actually lack any meaningful depth, to me at least. Because when I think about what leadership is to me, I think that there's a lot of the lowercase stuff, that doesn't come, and that's actually my journey, by the way. I actually started with, without formal authority, and that being the case, by the way, this was the best school I probably could have gotten, in a position, well, not position, in a place in life where I'm right now, when I'm basically doing, executive change, doing external change management. I come in as a consultant and help clients go through change process. Having worked in a corporation where I had no formal authority, but I had, I had the duty to get shit done. I mean, there is no better school. Trust me on this one. There is no better school to figure out what real leadership is and is not. So I think what I miss from the book myself is actually an actual understanding of that bit, which I think is pretty important. um, uh, that being said, I guess the upside of it all is I think it's worth being. It's worth being. I don't know if the right word is skeptical, but sort of taking whatever coaches, executive schools, or other similar institutions, might put in their brochures and websites and so on. Take all of that with a sip of salt. because definitely, I mean, there is truth to the fact that, you know, that what he states very well, that, you know, this is an unregulated industry, and as a result, it comes with, you know, with a wide variety of plants in here. Some pretty good, some not so much. That being said, I think, you know, the at least in Lithuania, I don't know, guys, if you know, I was very surprised to find out that in our country, you know, from which Inga and Aiste come from, uh, even, I mean, you don't really have to have any sort of degree to practice psychotherapy either.
Mm.
And it's stupid, you know, as it is. The caveat is that basically, if you voluntarily subscribe to some sort of an association of psychotherapists, then you're bound sort of to abide by the certification rules imposed by that association. If you are, however, not a part of that organization, I mean, you can advertise wherever. So
I did.
it is a bit of a sad reality, but that's how things are, you know. So I think in any case, whether it's a psychologist, executive coach, I think with, you know, figure out whether it's for you, because there's a lot of bullshit out there, even if it has the title of a formal psychotherapist on it. So I guess some thoughts here. Happy to hear from other participants.
Megan, I'm curious what the ideas it sparked for you from what you heard and what you imagined about the book.
Yeah, I you know, part part of the book was a little bit validating because I think I'm sure it all brought to mind for all of us people who are like, "Oh yeah, they shouldn't be in a leadership position." They don't have those, I'm sure we all have people that immediately sparked in my mind, and it made me think of some like members on my current team who always come to me and they're like, "What's my growth plan? What's my growth step?" And I found myself being guilty, I think, of leveraging some of these things. Oh, we have this leadership development program. Maybe like just trying to think of something to give them to answer the question they have. And this book really made me challenge that um, that practice that I've done before and say, okay, what am I actually doing and who am I actually serving in that? I think I'm meeting this need that they're telling me they have. But A, are they truly getting anything from this? B, am I truly serving maybe even good intentions of that type of a program by putting someone into that program who I think maybe ultimately does not have the leadership potential that program is meant to create? And what would a difficult conversation with that person look like? um, eh, to say, here's where I think the true gaps are, and I don't necessarily have something to offer you to fill it. So I think that part, it really challenged me to think through what the alternative was when I was in that situation with someone who professed that they had these leadership interests, and I did not do not feel that they probably exceptional leadership potential.
I mean, how you said it, us keep reevaluating again, and I think so. In the end of this call, I wanna maybe all of us to share how we define leadership, and then how what kind of skill set to focus on. Exactly what you just said, Megan. How we is leadership built or born, and how. Uh, that the answer would look like to whom is asking and maybe is not asking, but you feel it would be a good leadership material, and then how to encourage their development and to see what it would like best for them. Aiste, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have about 30 minutes of listening to do for the book, so the very, very summary is yet to come. But what I found out is that the beginning is rather different from the end. At least that was my feeling. And then it starts rather like narcissistic, psychopath, this is bad. And I remember this, mocking the $12 courses, like just, pay it and you will be the world-class leader. Different like this RRR and whatever this means. Someplace it's something else. And this was really like making me think because I have been in the companies where 10 years of my life I have spent in Mars, which has been built on not the planet, but the chocolate Mars. And they have been bringing the leadership, this, not without the power, very much into the everyday. It was at the time based rather on the Scandinavian approach to the people. So it was very, very grooming. And I think I grew up with them. On the other hand, there were cases where you had to fit in the box. And a lot of the things I did not fit in, being not extroverted enough, or even being a woman. And this book also touches on this part, which is very dear to me. And I eventually even wrote a master's for the topic on how differently women are being treated and the this double bind, what they experience. And this is also in the book about, that you have to be both assertive, but then you're kind of bitchy. And then like all my life, I have been looking. So, okay, so what leader should I be? What is the right kind of, how should I mold myself? I'm always into improving, into learning, and so how can I be better? But then with so many advices, even the $12 courses. Okay, now I'm mocking also, and also these double binds on the women, and then you just think, so what to do? And it is really confusing. And I imagine even now for the younger generation, or even the people who are in this leadership journey, it is still messy. But there is one thing that I liked about the book is at some point the author says, like, life is messy, and so is leadership. And you just go and you do and you decide and you don't linger. At least this is what has stayed to me, that we have to accept that life is messy, that leadership is messy, and you just need to kind of push through it, taking into account yourself, your personality, taking into account, and I like that he referenced that personality is kind of given, that there are certain things that you have, and you cannot turn from minus into plus, or from plus to the minus. You cannot change entirety, or then you would really become this narcissistic psychopath, probably, if you would be able to do that. So this is kind of getting in touch with yourself and deciding what kind of leader you want to be, like after reading through books. So, okay, there are different directions, but probably you need to pick one that is in tune with your inner world and inner values, as I think that this is what's the most important. And decide what kind of leader you want to be. And then he goes through that kind of notion throughout all this book, starting that, okay, the current leaders, which are narcissist and psychopathic traits, are really there. He acknowledges, and I think it has to do also with the kind of gender equality on that topic, because I have seen not so many women on the being narcissistic and psychopathic as guys. Sorry to the representatives here, but it is what it is. On the other hand, maybe you need to be a little crazy to make the world change, and that is also another option, to think. So, as I said, I really enjoyed this book. At first, it was like, okay, narcissist, psychopath, personality, fine, it's interesting, but what's about leadership? And so how and what are the best learnings? But then he really touched a lot of different topics, and I think it will still stay for thinking for later. How to say.
Yes, it definitely inspires ideas, and I really love also what you said about messiness, of acknowledgement of the reality and finding our place in it, and how he also in the book explores what leadership in the end, it starts from self-leading and self-understanding how we're led, and this is why we actually call one of our programs, self-leadership sprint, where we start in analyzing in how we function and then how to better understand ourselves in that messy world. Joe, you have so many different experiences from in the boat, wanting to lead and being led, and then submitting to that position. But from what you heard about the book or from our ideas, what are your thoughts? I cannot wait to hear you.
I want to make one observation, guys. Sort of, I
Yes.
was observing Joe as Aiste was speaking, and I saw this, this approving wise man smile, on his face, sort of that, like, yeah, she gets it.
I'm not so sure I get it.
I was just going to pick up on the messiness. I think that's a good place for me and to start here, having not read this. But first I'll share with you guys that I was on a coaching call today with a leader in a large organization, and his question to me was, he said, when you're working with one of your team members who reports to you, and they clearly have the knowledge, the skills to do the work, but something is missing, something is off. That the engagement, the motivation. He's like, "What do you do? How do you handle that?" And I said, I said, there are reasons like your company likes me, and like reasons your company won't like me. And so like we're just going to dig into like why they're not going to like me right now. And so I said, listen, even at a company like Mars, I imagine, and the same for this company, I completely understand, why systems and frameworks and, organizing leadership into boxes, work on some level for someone in the organization or some group of leaders within the organization. I get that. But I said, if I'm going to answer the question directly, I said, it's just peeling back the humanity of it. I mean, if someone is, has the skills and the knowledge to improve and they don't want to, or they're not motivated, I said, if you can create the space to have a trusting, vulnerable, open conversation where people can feel courage and safety, and you can start to explore like what the blocks are, and like it's just talking like a human is really all it is. And whether that happens in a $12 course or book or I think this is it. And I think related to something that I heard, I was a CEO of an organization, and I am sure like I would be an example of this author's like bad leader. But at the same point, for whatever good that I'm contributing to the world of leadership now, I think I needed that kind of that being a bad leader experience to be where we are today. And incidentally, like we've had a conversation with one of our people inside of Elevating Leadership Institute about this very issue, who is challenging themselves on her own leadership. And I had shared with Inga and Montes that like, oh my gosh, like we have no idea what this person's journey is going to be 5 years from today. And we have to be open to the people that we are becoming in that process. And I just think it lives there. I think helping all of us just find that human mode, that human lever. Like I do appreciate the reasons for the systems and the structure and the boxes, and it like, hey, let's teach people to lead like this. Like for the people that works for, it's great. To me, that just means you've got more attention and more energy for the people that are falling through the gaps or falling through the cracks, and open up a conversation which takes a certain skill and us really creating the conditions for having those more human-like conversations. But yeah, it's super interesting. I think to the end of the last thing I'll say for now is just that, to that end, I just sort of like the fact that that the world sort of needs a little bit of everything, even if everything isn't good and perfect and ideal. There's everyone is on a journey. There is so much we don't know about the person behind the leader. We don't know about their upbringing. We don't know about the relationships. We don't know about what's going on at home. We don't know. I mean, there's just so many things we don't know, and there's not an excuse or anything. I'm just believe that everyone is on a journey of some kind, and I'm probably opening up a little bit to what my definition of leadership is going to be, but maybe I'll save that for the end of the conversation.
I like what this is going, actually, because I'm sitting here and thinking sort of when I ask you guys, everyone, like, what's your definition of leadership? If we sort of switch around, and I don't know, Megan, if you sort of wanna start, what's your definition? What would you say this term means to you?
Yeah, I'm thinking through that, since Inga said we're going to pose this question, I'm thinking through, well, we're talking about a lot of things throughout this conversation that stand in the way of good leadership, like narcissism. So then obviously I think, self-awareness, like to me, being self-aware is incredibly important, and psychopathy. So the opposite of that is this like humanism, I think, that Joe was talking about. And I really, that concept of like just being a human, that should be our default state, right? So have all these courses and books just layered on this level of not being human onto our interactions, that we need to peel away from and get back just to that humanistic standpoint, because we should all have that somewhere within ourselves. So I think humanistic, self-aware growth mentality, I think those are the things that really ring true to me as being important, and also the opposite of these things we're talking about that don't serve a good leader.
At ELI, we definitely love those comparisons between superpower and kryptonite, and then where is that optimality? Because in high performance, it's never this or either. It's somewhere in between, that point of alignment. What happens? So I really love this comparison approach to understand of where it is. Aiste, how would you define the leadership for you?
Not so long ago, I have defined it for myself as enabling others to grow or to achieve more. That for me was kind of where I found peace, that this is what I'm talking about when I talk about true leadership. That's how it should look like. And it's has encompasses, to my belief, this dual thing about results and relationships. Is that, if others around you grow, they grow by also achieving results, achieving the business needs. And this serves that, because from my experience also, this result-driven teams, the high achievers teams, can, let's say, move out of the orbit of proper human, how to say it, interactions, let's say like that. Because the result becomes your everything. You start to disregard the human emotion, human feelings, everything for the result. And then you can keep up as long as you disregard and try to kind of fight back. But in the end, it's not the same as if striving for the same goal and for the same aim together and in a good company. So this leadership as enabling others to grow, I think, is what describes to me.
I mean, again, leadership, it's all about us and others, and that relationship, also what you bring it up to the results, how us with together, what is that healthy relationship to the results? Mantas, and then Joe, what are your leadership definitions?
Sure. I think, to me, actually, sort of the definition of leadership is like this. Leadership is defining what's allowed in the room. That's leadership to me. And I think sort of I would extend this probably by saying that when we're discussing of the narcissistic type, there are many ways to achieve an objective, right? I mean, I don't know, if you're a mountain goat, you would go one route. If you're a human, you would probably go another. Okay, there are some humans that go the mountain goat route, but generally sort of there are differences, right? So there are many paths to an objective. And speaking of the narcissistic kind, I think, you know, there's a difference. There's a difference between looking at leadership, the sort of the role of a leader as a position, and looking at the role of the leader as servitude. That, you know, you are serving others in that role. That's what you do. And I think if you come with that mindset that you are in servitude, and then you sort of, with that, you set what's allowed in the room, keeping in mind, well, you know, who is in that room, whether it's mountain goats or other variety, you know, with that in mind, that pretty much encapsulates how I understand what it is.
Yeah, that's a nice addition.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's the first time actually I heard this definition, what's allowed in the room, but it's so good. Thanks for sharing. Joe.
I think I'm very, and by the way, everyone here knows that I'm not the best with the names, or I'm better, like, I just say the names like as if they were Catalan, you know, is my problem, because that's where I live. I live in Catalonia. Is it Aista? How do I say it?
es aiste.
I
Aiste. Like
Aista.
iced tea, but a bit different ending.
Aista. I love that. I would say my definition is very close with Aista. And, you know, so what I'm thinking about is, you know, my own process of becoming, and then how I'm sort of affecting other people's process of becoming. So the way I like to just kind of say that is to help others enjoy this experience, and show up tomorrow as a better version of themselves than they were today. And it's a very, I mean, like, I'm not gonna, you know, a lot of companies aren't gonna hire me based on, you know, as their CEO or whatever, based on like that definition. But for what I do, it actually it's this leading self, leading clients, it works really well. Because I was just having this conversation with a really great friend of mine in Oklahoma City. You know, we were talking about the effect of ego and being out front, and sort of the push to that. You know, once upon a time in my life, I was a CEO of an Olympic sport organization. And I was telling my friend that I remember, this was like in my late 30s and around 40. I lived in Oklahoma City, and I was overseeing the Olympic governing body for my sport of canoeing. I go on these bike rides with the presidents and chairmen of these energy companies in Oklahoma, because, you know, they had the potential to be financial partners, or already were financial partners. I remember thinking, like, I had to, like, in order to have a conversation with them, like, I had to like bring myself up to their level in order to have like conversation with them, right? Like, this was like this was my ego pushing, like, hey, you're going to talk to them, like, you got to talk with them. And, you know, all these years later, you know, I don't make any, I mean, everyone knows, who I talk to, that you are busier than I am. There's almost like a guarantee, like, you are busier than me. And I am like super comfortable with that. And I'm just, you know, very comfortable sort of stepping into the background and having conversations with leaders about the human side of this, and the, you know, what's behind the ego, what's, you know, what's the why behind this, you know, getting into those kind of parts of the conversation. And yeah, I just think for me, having to like sort of define leadership, it's like, I know, as I'm thinking a lot about the evolution of this human journey that we're all on, and what is going to make that more enjoyable, rewarding, satisfying, and improving, like, you know, showing up tomorrow as just slightly better version of self, as ourself today. And that's kind of it for me. You know, it's really something you probably feel more than you measure. But like I said, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't going to be very satisfied with that answer. But it opens up really great conversations with people that are trying to figure out and, you know, resolve this pull between who they feel they're expected to be and who they really want to show up as for themselves?
Joe, I really like you've said kind of a few times now, the company might not like this answer I'm giving, or, this company probably wouldn't hire me. And it just makes me think about how not only do we have so many leaders who are so ingrained kind of in the style, we have so many companies that are so ingrained in their idea of what a leader looks like, which is not maybe a humanistic, empathetic person. It's more on the results end of the results relationship. Scale. And so as you think about leadership opportunities, thinking through how do you think through the culture of an organization, and how much you'll be able to live that authentic definition of leadership that you have within that space?
I mean, now you've set me up for what I think Inga was hoping I would speak about, which is, what really shaped my opinion on this was my relationship with my doubles canoe partner with whom I won the Olympics with in 1992. So it's a team boat, two people paddling together, Whitewater River Rapids. You don't really have time to talk. The communication is like reading body language, and you're navigating rocks and current and, and all these kind of things. So the thing about my canoe partner with whom I was successful with, we weren't like 180 degrees difference, but we were about 179. And I truly believe had we been 175, we would not have won the Olympic Games. And but it also led to like a lot of conflict and a lot of like, especially as the expectations rose and as we got better, we had a really hard time managing like success and expectation and doing better. So much so the United States Olympic Committee had to send in their head of sports psychology to like work with us and help us figure out how to have these conversations. But at the heart of all of this, Megan, is that this wasn't like take conversations about like take one for the team. It was about like how to help each person in the boat show up as the most full engaged version of themselves. And that becomes what you're putting into the team. I know that that's not the only answer to the question, because there are a lot of people who believe like you should suppress some element of yourself for the good of your team. And like, I'm open for that conversation, debate, whatever, like I think we need a lot of ideas in the room to arrive at something that works. I just want the people who choose to work for these organizations. I, I don't want to agree or disagree with a philosophy. I just want to help people either make peace with the organization and the philosophy that they've chosen to be a part of, or help them on a path that's going to get them to a better place. So, like, as an example, Inga and I have coached people at Salesforce, one of the most ambitious companies. Like, I mean, it's insanity. It's pure insanity. I don't say that to our clients that like it's pure insanity. They've made the choice. It's just at that point, just helping them make peace and live like a rich life the way they want, within the context that they've chosen to be a part of. Because if it's not for them, let's figure that out too.
But what ideas spark for you, Megan, from Joe's exploration?
Yeah,
Sure.
I love that. It makes me think both, my own career development, and where I want to spend my time, and also how I can carve out within my area of leadership a space in which people can live their fullest lives.
Mm-hmm.
Aiste, what are your reflections from what been said? And also, my question is also for you: leaders built or born?
A little bit of both, maybe. Yeah, it's a leader in the making. I think this is the whole life, and at how much percentage it really depends. Yeah, one of the things, let's say, to reflect now, there are so many zillion thoughts in my mind. Time to pick one to say out loud is that to answer the question, right? Yeah, so I think that there are certain things that maybe kind of indicate that you should not be a leader. But then again, what kind of leader definition do we have? So in case we say, we expect a leader to have this, assertiveness, boldness, this, then probably, yeah, not everyone has to have those abilities, and not everyone should aspire to be a leader. And this is what I liked about the book. I mean, a little bit that I have been at some point in my life brainwashed that, the only way is up, and you have to be a leader, and you have to be a certain way, etc., etc. But then I grew up at some point and decided, yeah, okay, so I can be a leader, but in my own way, and I need to decide who am I gonna be. And it took a while. It was a work in progress, but and I'm still a work in progress. But I think that this understanding of that being a leader means helping others, then anybody can, because it's a human prerequisite, to help your friend, help your colleague, help your anybody around you, and then you are a leader, and then you're already. But so it all depends on the definition, and I guess I'm not sure we should have a one defining one.
I wanted to challenge you with one word also. We need to also keep defining what helping means, right? In different situations,
Also.
because narcissists are also very eager to help drive results.
Yeah. Yeah, but then it's helping get results, or helping the person. Yeah, so there's a lot of definition for each of the words to make it really shine like a diamond. And yeah, it's a lot of things still to do, and especially with the AI coming in to change everything once again. So I'm not sure. So it's thinking every day about it, and let's see where this leads us to.
Maybe next book would be about technology and leadership. Megan, what's your answer? Or maybe are leaders born or built? And what question for leadership do you have for yourself about leadership?
I think my answer is born to be built. I think born with and innately with enough self-awareness and growth mentality that you build the right way, that Joe talked about that journey of life, born so that you are willing to build yourself and continue on that journey and continue lifelong growth in a way that you can serve others. I think my question about leadership for myself comes directly from what I said about that definition of helping others, and how we can encourage people to help others as part of their leadership. When I think about some of those people that I have who I'm like, I just don't think they have leadership. A lot of them are just incredible individual performers. And so they say, what's next? What's next? What's next? I really like, and I said earlier, I often just I'm like, sure, go do this leadership thing. Maybe that's what's next. But actually maybe challenge themselves and saying, what do you think about this definition of leadership, that a true leader is someone who enables others to be their best self? Is this something you can practice and work on within your current sphere? And then let's see what comes of that. I really am taking that away as a next step for some of those people that I'm challenged by.
And also we can ask them how your not passion, but interest in what kind of development it looks like. It could be also really healthy progression into the depth of the subject of what they're specializing. So this is why I loved about this book, to give in this results, and only leadership driven world gives a permission to excel, not necessarily in leadership position, but in finding our own place, maybe in other subjects and options of the organization or our careers. Joe.
Very quickly, I so agree. Like this idea of really doing a little work to see if why someone wants to be a leader, right? And if it's the right path. I think often we're having these conversations about leadership, not leadership, or like what is the next step, with people in their late 20s and early 30s. And it's not like there's anything so special about that age. What I sort of tend to look for is, just kind of where they are in the life journey. I think that one of my really I had a really enjoyable coaching collaboration with a guy who's now in his 50s who works for this financial products organization. He has a very unique talent for doing really well for the company in kind of a sketchy market. And over the years, he's made the company a very large company already. He's made them like a lot more money doing what he does. And because he's successful, like he's literally been for 20 years been fighting off the company, like from trying to make him a leader. Like he doesn't want it. He knows what he's really good at. He knows what he enjoys. And it was so fun working with him, working with someone like that, it just to figure that out. I just think it's very rare to like meet someone that's like fighting it off for like 20 years. But on the flip side of the question, what the question makes me think about is on those occasions that you meet someone that just says, I'm not a leader, I'm never going to be. It makes you sort of dig into that person and say, huh, what does this person really have to offer that they're not seeing? And so to that point, like, I'm not saying they should be a leader, but almost in the way that they say it, it just gets me more curious. And then it leads me to believe this stuff is learned. It's not the born part. It's learned. But I really like the part of the conversation about trying to figure out ways to have the better conversations about people. Like you don't have to become a leader. You can become a rock star individual contributor. You can get really good at doing that and you can have a very enjoyable life. And you're probably just the main leadership skills that you're going to need are fighting leadership off from making you a leader. Like that's going to be like the key thing. Like it's so rare to think of it like that. But yeah, I think it's such a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
I just love that, and we're gonna go straight to Mantas just to really reinforce what Joe just said. Really knowing the reasons why you say yes or no to something, right? Like if I'm saying yes to leadership, what is the reason? If I'm saying no to leadership, what is the reason? And if it is a good reason, Mantas.
Yeah, I was just sort of I'm happy, by the fact I think sort of to me this hour which is about to end now has achieved its objective as I would understand it, because I think we started questioning the meaning of things, sort of the concept of leadership, the concept of help, and sort of going to under sort of, and I loved Megan's sharing, that sort of the redefinition of, if you help the person redefine it, that so changes the perspective, both your action, their perspective. I mean, the outcome is totally different. So I'm actually really happy about that. I think the sort of going back a little bit to the why part, this is probably what needs to happen. I mean, because all the those leaders that getting mocked, that are blamed of being myopic, I mean, they don't have that capacity. They do not have the capacity to question the definition that they are running after mindlessly. And I think whatever outcome is, I mean, whatever is your answer to that question, whether you want to be, you want to spend your entire life, I don't know, locked in an office doing things, but that's your calling. It comes at a price, sure. But if you are at peace with that choice, man, go knock yourself out. Sort of. So I think I love the process itself. I love that. I think the process which is now sort of happening has happened in this room in this hour is the process through which you do not get into the traps. That the book has spent so much time describing. And that makes me happy. I think I'm happy for us. I'm happy for the two people whom I have not known personally, Aista and Megan. With Aista, we kind of have this, the internet friends relationship, connected on LinkedIn, never met. So now that's no longer true. I'm happy about that as well.
This is what at least was inspiration for me to keep creating this coaching community where we, how Aiste, you said it yourself, when we have so many ideas, how to sort through them, how to find place for that growth, because those ideas also shapes us, our perspective of the things what we see and experience. To have the place and space to explore safely in many different ways. It's like in sports, as an athlete, going in training, trying many different movements, exercises, and to see where our strengths, where is our place, in what kind of space we are at the moment also, and then where are others, and then how we can inspire and then help each other into get to the place faster, easier, and then with more fun.
Absolutely amazing. And one more thing, it's really nice to hear, that case from across the Atlantic, right, down to the south in the Europe, Catalonia, we're all speaking the same language. So that's really amazing. I'm very happy about that.